There's this fine little gathering of people on Facebook who like to talk about Judaism and Christianity. Isaiah 53 seems to be a beloved above them all when it comes to trying to prove their Messiah is of God, and not just a bad idea off the back of a box of Captain Crunch. But I noticed when you show them that the servant is named Israel in the prior chapters, that 53 verse 5 mistranslated the prefix mem or anything that debunks the Extian belief. They throw the Targum of Jonathan in the mix like it's a guided missile or the Infinity Gauntlet. One of the writers for the Isaiah 43 group had asked a question of these fine people, and the responses, which I'll share later in this video, are beyond revealing.
Why do X-Gens like to quote the Targum of Jonathan for Isaiah 53? How does this help their case? Have they not read the entire chapter?
That aside, this sparked my interest. I had heard of the Targum, but never read them for myself. The scholars say that we don't know the exact reason for the Targum, but there are two prevailing theories. One being they are translations for the Hebrew illiterate, and two, they were commentaries to the Hebrew. So, just like any intelligent person, I started at the end of the book and then read the beginning. Just kidding, folks. I started in chapter 1. Now, if we're going to be intellectually honest, an X-Gen can read the Targum Isaiah and use it as a proof text for their theology on Jesus. However, listen and listen carefully. That can only be accomplished by discarding the large quantities of verses and chapters that disprove their theology. Before we look into Isaiah 53, let's remember, the X-Gens say it's about Jesus suffering and dying for the sins of the world. While many of the Jews and Noahides don't disagree about it pertaining to Messiah, they identify the servant as Yisrael, and the Messiah doesn't die. Listen, and you be the judge.
Who hath believed our report? And to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed?
Who hath believed this our report? And to whom is now the power of the arm of the Lord revealed?
For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of a dry ground. He hath no form nor comeliness, and when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him.
The righteous shall be great before him, behold, like branches that bud, and like a tree which sends forth its roots by the streams of water. Thus shall the generation of the just multiply in the land, which hath need of him.
He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And we hid as it were our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not.
His visage shall not be the visage of a common person, neither his fear the fear of a plebeian. But a holy brightness shall be his brightness, that everyone who seeth him shall contemplate him. Although he shall be in contempt, yet he shall cut off the glory of all the wicked. They shall be weak and wretched. Lo, we are in contempt and not esteemed, as a man of pain and appointed to sickness, and as if he had removed the face of his Shekinah from us.
Surely he hath borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted.
Therefore he shall pray for our sins, and our iniquities for his sake shall be forgiven us. For we are considered crushed, smitten of the Lord, and afflicted.
But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed.
He shall build the house of the sanctuary, which has been profaned on account of our sins. It was delivered over on account of our iniquities. And through his doctrine, peace shall be multiplied upon us. And through the teaching of his words, our sins shall be forgiven us.
All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned everyone to his own way, and the Lord hath laid on him the iniquity of us all.
All we like sheep have been scattered. Every one of us has turned to his own way. It pleased the Lord to forgive the sins of all of us for his sake.
He was oppressed, and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shearers is dumb, so he openeth not his mouth.
he shall pray, and he shall be answered, yea, before he shall be heard. He shall deliver over the mighty of the nations as a lamb to the slaughter, and like a sheep before her shearers is dumb, none shall in his presence open his mouth or speak a word.
He was taken from prison and from judgment, and who shall declare his generation? For he was cut off out of the land of the living. For the transgression of my people was he stricken.
He shall gather our captives from affliction and pain. And who shall be able to narrate the wonderful works which shall be done for us in his days? He shall remove the rule of the nations from the land of Israel. The sins which my people have committed have come upon them.
And he made his grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death, because he had done no violence, neither was any deceit in his mouth.
And he shall deliver the wicked into hell, and the riches of treasures which they got by violence unto the death of Abaddon, that they who commit sin shall not remain, and that they should not speak folly with their mouth.
Yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him. He hath put him to grief. When thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin, he shall see his seed, he shall prolong his days, and the pleasure of the Lord shall prosper in his hand.
And it was the pleasure of the Lord to refine and to purify the remnant of his people, in order to cleanse their souls from sin, that they might see the kingdom of their Messiah, that their sons and daughters might multiply and prolong their days. And those that keep the law of the Lord shall prosper through his pleasure.
He shall see of the travail of his soul, and shall be satisfied. By his knowledge shall my righteous servant justify many, for he shall bear their iniquities.
He shall deliver their souls from the servitude of the nations. They shall see the vengeance upon their enemies. They shall be satisfied with the spoil of their kings. By his wisdom he shall justify the righteous, in order to make many to keep the law, and he shall pray for their sins.
Therefore will I divide him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he hath poured out his soul unto death, and he was numbered with the transgressors, and he bare the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors.
Therefore I will divide to him the spoil of many people, and the treasures of strong fortifications. He shall divide the spoil, because he has delivered his life unto death, and he shall make the rebellious to keep the law. He shall pray for the sins of many, and as for the transgressors, each shall be pardoned for his sake.
Now let's do a little compare-pair, so the only excuse left after this video is cognitive dissonance. For ex-chens, Messiah is the branch. For the Targum, the righteous are the branch. For the ex-chens, Messiah was stricken and smitten of God. For the Targum, Yisrael was the smitten. For the ex-chens, our sins are forgiven by Messiah's stripes. For the Targum, we achieve forgiveness by Messiah's teachings. For the ex-chens, Messiah, like a sheep, opened not his mouth. For the Targum, the nations like sheep shall not open their mouths to Messiah. For the ex-chens, Messiah was stricken for the sins of the people. For the Targum, Yisrael paid for their own sins. For the ex-chens, it pleased the Lord to bruise the Messiah. For the Targum, it pleased the Lord to refine and purify his remnant. So, in my opinion, it's clear to see that when the ex-chens say that the Targum proves that Isaiah 53 is about Messiah, they are correct. They just leave out the part that the suffering servant is Yisrael, whom the Messiah happens to be a part of. Oh, and if we are to use the Targum as a proof text, this proves that the Messiah doesn't die for the forgiveness of our sins. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there was a post that prompted this video. The responses were of epic proportions. Please enjoy.
Why do ex-chens like to quote the Targum of Jonathan for Isaiah 53? How does this help their case? Have they not read the entire chapter?
Denied more, reject more. That's why there is no peace in Israel. You rejected the Prince of Peace, the one who will give you peace.
We are waiting for Christ to return. Then everyone will believe.
The Septuagint was written by 70 Hebrew, Jewish scribes from Israel, hundreds of years before the birth of Jesus, Yeshua. They were Pharisees. They had no messianic agenda. However, the Talmud, written hundreds of years after Jesus, Yeshua, did have an agenda to erase the messianic literature.
The suffering in Isaiah 53 aligned to the New Testament Messiah. No other Jewish person or corporate group relate as to how God directed Isaiah in a vision to tell this story.
For the same reason, the normal Isaiah 53 was dropped from the Haftarah altogether, because the reading sounds a lot like Jesus.
It's called Stringing Pearls. Religious people from all biblical views all do it. Why is it a problem when it's done by Christians but not Jews?
They thought he was an illegitimate son of Pantera.
Do you recognize what they all have in common? Yeah, not a single one answers the question of why, except for the one who tries to say it's stringing pearls, which is rabbinic in nature. But he failed to realize that stringing pearls is when wisdom, midrash, and lore are made a composite. That doesn't apply here. But even he couldn't help but miss the point of the post. No one said it's a problem. The problem is theirs when the entire chapter proves Jesus couldn't be Messiah. If that is the X-Chen version of stringing pearls, it's no wonder they have so many different churches. One word changes their entire theological structure. Dear God, I hope they never read the Odyssey.